Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a quick video on 5 quick tips of things that you can add to your ships when building, and I'm going to show you some examples of ships with those features so that you can get some inspiration and maybe implement them into some of the ships that you're building. So we'll get right into it. Number 1 is cargo bays. So cargo bays I differentiate from hangars in the sense that they are not primarily for carrying fighters or other crafts more permanently. They're more of like a storage option when generally you can't get piping for a connector in a location in a ship. So I've got a few different examples of cargo bays here, all from different eras. So we'll start with the Blue Ambassador. If you played the first jump scenario, you will have seen this. So we've got a cargo bay here. It's a very simple cargo bay. There's no DLC in this one, so I want to show it as well. It's a big space. You can land ships in cargo bays, so you can obviously clamp them to the floor, or you could, with the new magnetic plate blocks, you could put those on the floor here, and you could lock ships that way. So you can carry the ships. The issue is normally getting connectors down through the bottom here and all the piping, which would take up a lot of space and mean that you might not necessarily be able to have one here. Another reason you might want to go with a cargo bay is if you aren't frequently going to be carrying ships, it's not worth having all that extra pipe work going on for connectors and stuff like that, and those facilities for fighters if you're not going to be carrying them very often, basically. You could also use it for scooping up scrap. So if you find the what they're called now, the unknown signals, you can basically just fly the ship over it and just eat it like a whale shark. There's a dirtier joke in there somewhere, and then lock them onto these pads and grind them down, and that way the stuff won't float away as you're grinding it. And you can do that with obviously other types of debris as well. And then also, I mean, you can turn a cargo bay into anything you want. You know, you could fill this with artillery guns if you wanted to, and just have a 6-barrel artillery piece at the front, or you could stick, you know, a couple of rail guns in here if needs be. So they're fairly customizable. Obviously they do look cool. That's one of my common excuses. This is the LKF Halberd class light cruiser. So one of my own ships, built with Omega and Yoshi. And this ship obviously has a drop hanger up here, so we can actually latch 8 altos in here. But we also have this, I think we called it a repair bay, but you can fly ships in here. You can see we've got some freight containers going on, got some nice hazard stripes on the floor, and then we've also got cargo access in here too. So you can clamp. You could probably land, you know, with magnetic plates. You could probably squeeze another 3 altos in here if you put one there, and then, you know, one there if you really wanted to. But you could also land shuttles in here to drop players off, or to drop cargo off that just needs to be hand loaded. You could drop loose containers in here. Various different objects. I did hear a big bang then. I don't know if there's a drone flying around. I don't know if it's flown into the cruiser or something. Ah, yes. Sorry, mate. Did you hit a battle cruiser? I hate it when you accidentally bump into a battle cruiser. So this is the Hyperion class battle cruiser, which is IMDC inspired, built by High Ground, which I did review on the channel. This has a very nice little cargo bay that I just wanted to show. Open the doors here. Because I like this one as well. Almost textbook. I would just have had some, I mean, you could probably have gotten it in somehow here. If there's connectors anywhere, maybe not. I would have had some component and inventory access there. I would have had like a, if it were me, I would have had a small cargo container there that pipes into the rest of the ship. Just so you can access cargo from here. But other than that, obviously it'd be really tricky to get a connector down here. So it's basically like an internal landing pad, just for shuttles to come drop, you know, troops off. You can unload stuff by hand, and these are also useful if you've got external connectors, because you can unload your ship by docking to the external connector back there, and then you can land it in the cargo bay and just lock it to the ground, which it will jump with. It will stay through a jump, and it's a little bit more protected. Some things that you might want to think about adding in your cargo bays is cargo access, like I just covered. I think that's a really important one. You want to be able to, if you're working on a station or what have you, you could just leave these doors open, and then you could quickly just fly in and out to get components. So I'd replace this maybe with a small cargo container, for example. You want interior access, which sounds obvious, but not everyone does it. And that's an airlock leading into the interior of the ship. Doors. So this one's got a hangar door. This one doesn't. So it's not, it's not a must-have. Obviously we've got gates on the side here, but the back part is open. And then freight containers and shelves just for loose component storage. But I hope that was some food for thought. Let's move on to the second one. Alright, so next is a pretty quick one. There's not too many different ways to do it, so I've just got a couple of ships. This is the LKF Rocketti class missile corvette, and I've not released this ship yet, but it's just a standard tanker. And this is extendable connectors. So we've got a couple of different ones here. So on this tanker we've got a simple piston connector, like this. So we've got the connector on the end of the piston that you can control from the cockpit, and then you can just extend and retract. I'll just do it real quick from here. The piston. So you can get extra range and make it look like a phallic object. And then over here on the Rocketti, we've got the piston and then the connector, but we've actually got one step further. Sorry, that's a hinge. That flips out. And then from there you can extend the piston however far you need to, or you can just use it like that as well. Now, the reason you might want to do this is if you are playing, or you've built a station maybe that's bespoke for survival and you've not considered the connection points on your ships, it might be difficult to dock your ships to stations and such. So I'll just give you an example here. I don't think I've got an external connector on this. But for instance, say this was your base, and this is the connection point that you've built into your base. I'll give you an example here. This is an example I actually ran into in my survival world. If people have watched my survival series, you'll remember. So the Orville, I've put the connector here. And when I was trying to dock it to my asteroid station, that is not going to mesh well with this, because obviously the bow protrudes, so it wouldn't fit. And then we've also got a connector down here, but that also won't fit as well because it's the same issue. It protrudes. So having an extendable connector, like one of these or one of these, just means that you're pretty much able to dock to any ship and any station without any issue, especially if you've got a piston, because you can push the connector right out like that and you can get to those hard to reach spots. Especially if you're doing like a tanker like this, you want a ship which is a fueling ship to be able to connect to whatever it needs to connect to with ease. So relatively easy to set up, but yeah, I don't see a lot of them, so I thought I'd just point it out because they are really, really useful. So the next tip, I'm venturing into the old LKF Starhammer. The reason I'm using mostly my ships is because I know what features they have. And this tip is auxiliary power generation. So in here I've got a couple of engines, and this ship is primarily reactor powered. But as I learned in my solo survival series, if anyone saw it, the mining ship I was using ran out of power and dropped out of the sky. And I didn't heed my own warning and have an auxiliary power system, which I should have definitely had some sort of backup. In this ship, if the reactors get shot out or I forget to load uranium in and the batteries run out, I can fire up the engines, and it's not going to fly a cruiser with ion thrusters, but it'll limp you home, or at least, you know, life support will come back online, production will come back online, and some of the basics like that. Now, you don't have to have two engines at all. What you can also do is literally just have a couple of batteries on your ship somewhere. This applies for small grids and rovers as well. A few batteries which you charge up fully and then switch them off. And then if you forget to charge your rover at any point or your ship and it runs out of power, you can flick the batteries back on and it should be just about enough to get you home. You can also do it with a reactor with a couple, 2 or 3 uranium in it, turn it off, and then if your ship ever runs out of juice, you can fire that back up. Or you can do what I've done if you have hydrogen in your ship and have some engines. Obviously, if you run out of hydrogen in this case, you're also a bit screwed, but this is on the premise that you don't. Maybe fill up a hydrogen tank, keep it stockpiled and turn it off just until you run out of energy. But I highly recommend this. I used to do it all the time and I stopped doing it and I paid the price the other day. So yeah, backup power, do it. So another tip from the Starhammer, my building has devolved if you can't tell already, is if your ship is large enough and warrants it, I'd say frigate and above maybe, is consider having utility craft on board permanently. Now this is obviously a large cruiser, so I can afford to carry 2 manned ships in the rear back here. But you might consider having a mining drone and a repair drone permanently docked. I mean, you need very little space, very little space. You could fit 2 of those drones in like a 3x3 small hangar space, and then you just need 1 hangar door, or you could use a gate or something to let them in and out of. So you don't need a lot of room at all, especially if the connectors are on the back. You could have 2 drones right next to each other with 1 drill and then 1 welder, and it's just going to save you a lot of time, and it'll mean that it's self-sufficient. So if we're low on hydrogen, for example, we could pull up next to an asteroid. I don't have to go out with my drill, mine for several hours. I could just hop into a proper mining ship or fire up a mining drone, and you can very, very quickly refuel your own ship. If you've got onboard processing facilities like refineries and assemblers, you can produce your own components as well, which then if you have a constructor on board, you can go and make repairs whilst in flight. So anything that's going to be going out on its own long distance and is frigate and above, I would say, is probably worth you considering having a permanent presence for utility and mining craft on board, just so the ship can look after itself. And like I said, you can make those drones very, very small. And I can't think of one I've got off the top of my head. I've got this one. This is a Parrot utility craft that I built donkeys ago. And this is a perfect example of just how small you can make the ship. I would get rid of that obviously and put a welder on it probably. And it just takes up literally no room. And it's dead easy, dead simple, and it's going to save you a lot of time and hassle if you do need to make those quick and easy in-flight repairs. If you had to pick one, I would go with the mining drone. I think that's the more productive one. So if you've only got space for one, I would have a small mining drone. I don't think I've got a small mining drone as an example here. I mean, to be fair, you can have very small manned miners. For example, if this was ion, like that there. I mean, that is tiny. It's like 2.5 blocks long. So yeah, I would definitely consider adding these 2 ships. Okay, so the last tip for this video is welders. Let me elaborate. So you can use welders for a variety of things. I'm using the Starhammer because I forgot how much stuff I crammed into this ship when I built it. But we've got a few different examples here. So I've got a welder floor under each of the landing pads here on my well, this is like the fighter carrying section, and they will actually work through these glass panels to repair damaged ships as and when they land. So you can fly back, if you've just been in combat, you park up, you flick on these welders and it will repair your ship. Ideally you have a projector on the ship that can project the broken blocks. If not, it's just going to repair the blocks which are just damaged. So it's sort of counting that you've got that. And then the second tip is, well, it's part of the same one, is you can use welders on turrets. Now, old players are going to know this, and there's been a lot of new players recently. This is quite a common tactic. I don't tend to do it as much anymore. I think I do have it on my new gunship. But once you're in combat, you can, as long as you've got components in your storage system, flick on your welders and they're going to keep your turrets nice and healthy. So I've got them here. And then if your turrets get destroyed, providing you have a projector on the ship and you can overlay the ship's blueprint, it will rebuild the turret for you, pre-configured to the ship's blueprint, so it'll basically just pop it back in. So what I normally do is you'll just fill up the cargo containers with the components for turrets, and then when you're entering a fight, flick the welders on, and anytime this thing takes a hit, it will quickly weld it up. Obviously, if you're taking sustained fire and the damage is outdoing the welder, you're still going to lose your turret. But once you get a break from the action, provided you have a projector and you've turned it on, it will rebuild the turret. I've seen that one quite a lot. I've seen this pad one less so. Obviously, for the turret one, like I've got it on the gunship, you don't really need a lot of room to do it. You're going to have conveyoring going into your turrets anyway, so you just need to stick a welder on the side, and the welders have got a good arrangement of conveyor ports which make it quite easy to do. Whereas the landing pad system takes up a lot of space. Obviously this ship is enormous, so I can afford to do it, but you're not really going to be able to do this effectively on anything really smaller than a cruiser. And I don't know if it'd be justified on anything smaller than a cruiser, unless you just have the one. Obviously, it's a little bit wasteful to have 6 of them. You might just want one little repair bay, maybe even like a cargo bay, where your ship can fly into, get repaired, and then go and dock somewhere else. But the basic premise is that you have the welders on the floor, a projector on your fighter, you fly it across, and you can flick these welders on, and you can repair your ships on the go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was really quick. I just wanted to fire out a few tips and show you some examples to give you some inspiration to use in your own builds. Let me know if you'd like to see further tips and tricks. I've got more that I can do videos on. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you enjoyed, please like, comment and subscribe to support the channel. Take care, everybody.